Welcome back to the RWA Foundry. I'm stepping in as your senior blockchain advisor for this explainer, and we're looking at an absolute game changer in institutional digital finance, privacy-preserving compliance. You see, putting raw personally identifiable information, PII, on a public blockchain, it's a total legal nightmare. It flat out violates GDPR, CCPA, and MiCA. But then you look at institutional funds like BlackRock's Butyl, and you have to wonder, how are they ensuring strict compliance while still maintaining ironclad investor privacy? Well, today we're going to solve that exact paradox.
Okay, let's dive into this playbook. First, we'll look at the nightmare of legacy compliance, then the ZK-KYC paradigm shift, followed by a multidimensional pillar analysis. After that, we'll hit the Apex Yield business case, get into the smart contract technical execution, and wrap up with the immutability shield. Let's get to it.
Section 1, Legacy Compliance, a Nightmare. We're looking at the systemic risk of raw PII on a public blockchain.
Because right now, legacy compliance literally turns institutions into massive honeypots for sensitive data. And bringing that onto a public chain, it creates a direct collision course, on-chain immutability versus the right to be forgotten. Think about it for a second. If you wouldn't paste your social security number on a public billboard, why on earth would you encode it into an immutable ledger where it can literally never be deleted? Doing that places platforms in permanent breach of global privacy laws.
And honestly, this is exactly why the legacy ERC20 token standard completely fails when it comes to institutional real-world assets. ERC20 is just address-centric. It interacts with anonymous 0x addresses, so it suffers from identity blindness, offering zero options for forced transfers or legal recourse. But enter the modern standard, ERC3643. This is a massive shift to an identity-centric model. It completely decouples the verification of an identity from the disclosure of the underlying data.
Which brings us to Section 2, the ZK-KYC paradigm shift, decoupling identity verification from data disclosure.
Let's look at the tech stack making this happen. First up is on-chain ID. Instead of just doing some basic static whitelisting, this is a universal identity contract deployed for every single user. It's backed up by a central identity registry that maps wallets to these contracts right at the security token level, along with a claim registry where certified issuers drop in cryptographic signatures. It essentially forms the DNA of regulated liquidity, and it even lets you do key rotation without having to redo the whole KYC process. Next, we have W3C Verifiable Credentials, or VCs. You can think of these kind of like a digital passport. They're cryptographically signed data packets issued by a trusted entity. But here's the kicker. They are held privately by the user in their own digital wallet. It creates this brilliant air gap. You hold your own credentials instead of exposing them to some vulnerable third-party database.
And finally, zero-knowledge proofs, specifically ZK-SNRKs applied as ZK-KYC. If you're not familiar, this is a cryptographic method that lets a user prove a statement is true without revealing the underlying data. And this brilliantly illustrates our ultimate goal here, compliance without surveillance. You can mathematically prove you're an accredited investor without ever revealing your actual net worth. It's practically magic.
So how does this actually look in practice? Let's map out a workflow using Chainlink DECO. Step 1. A user logs into their secure Web2 bank portal using zkTLS. Step 2. They generate a solvency proof. Maybe they're proving they have a balance over $50,000, but they're doing it without showing the exact number. Step 3 is source authentication, which cryptographically guarantees that the data originated completely unaltered from the bank's server. And step 4, zero data persistence. Absolutely no PII is ever stored on-chain.
All right, Section 3, Multi-Dimensional Pillar Analysis. This is our framework for institutional adoption.
When I'm advising S&P 500 C-suites, I use this exact framework to show why this stack is absolutely critical. Business-wise, you're getting instant, reusable, one-click onboarding and zero PII liability. On the legal side, you are fully compliant with GDPR's Article 17 right to be forgotten, plus MiCA and SEC Reg D. Security-wise, you achieve Sybil resistance by binding wallet addresses directly to public inputs, preventing replay attacks. And technologically, by using WebAssembly with Plonky 3, client-side proof generation plummets to under 3 seconds. It is lightning fast.
Moving on to Section 4, the Apex Yield business case, proving the ROI of privacy-preserving compliance.
Let's ground all this academic theory in some hard business metrics.
Take Apex Capital's $250 million tokenized sovereign debt fund. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive delta in cost and operational friction. Legacy onboarding takes 5 to 10 business days. With ZK-KYC, under 2 minutes. KYC costs plummet from up to $350 per investor down to roughly $2.50 for API and gas fees. And settlement goes from a clunky, manual T+3 delay straight to real-time automated on-chain hooks.
But honestly, for the executives in the room, the most vital metric is this: 0. Your database vulnerability literally drops to 0 because only anonymized hashes and nullifiers are touching the blockchain. You completely eliminate data breach liability. That drastically lowers your cyber insurance premiums and practically neutralizes the threat of those multi-million-dollar GDPR fines.
Okay, Section 5, Smart Contract Technical Execution. We're getting into the CIRCAM and Solidity mechanics here.
Let's put our computer science hats on for a minute. I always pose this critical security question. How do we prevent identity double spending? Seriously, what stops one malicious actor from grabbing a single verifiable credential and then using it to spin up 1,000 anonymous Sybil wallets to bypass investor caps?
Well, the answer is nullifiers. A nullifier is a deterministic cryptographic hash that binds a private VC secret directly to an issuer's signature key. So the on-chain verifier contract stores these used nullifiers. If a second wallet tries to come in and claim that exact same credential, the smart contract sees that the nullifier has already been used and it instantly blocks the registration. Boom, double spending solved.
On top of that, we have ACT mitigation, which protects against the approved controllable transfer from vulnerability. By wrapping our identity verification rules inside a specific structural hook, specifically underscore before token transfer, we ensure that no asset can ever be routed through an approved spender just to bypass sender verification. The security is enforced right at the absolute base layer of the token.
Finally, Section 6, the Immutability Shield. Let's look at some strategic takeaways for institutional DeFi.
So, the crucial point to take away from all of this is that decoupled compliance achieves total legal alignment without ever holding or leaking sensitive raw PII. By bringing together ERC 3643, on-chain ID, and zero-knowledge proofs, data privacy and regulatory compliance are no longer mutually exclusive. They actually work in perfect harmony. I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. Programmable, privacy-preserving compliance is quickly becoming a binary condition for market participation. If that's the case, is your infrastructure ready for the institutional DeFi revolution? It's time to reevaluate your tech stack, move past the outdated limitations of ERC20, and really master this next phase of tokenization. Thanks for joining me for this explainer here in the RWA Foundry. Keep building and keep learning.